Alex was frustrated by by what happened. He's like, I wanted an honest conversation. I think Kanye's an interesting guy, and I wanted to have an honest conversation about what he really thinks and where it comes from. Because Jones is intensely curious, not only very historically literate, but also intensely curious. And he said he just wouldn't give it to me. He said, he wore the mask the whole time. He's becoming a meme. And I'll give you the alternative. I think the most likely hypothesis is yours, Viva. I've seen it a lot. If anybody's been around Hollywood, people there's anybody hits their late 40s, early 50s. Mark Robert could probably speak to it. There's about 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 that just flat out lose their minds. They just flat out lose their minds. So you can't rule that out, and that's probably the most probable explanation. There is a backdrop of Black Jewish hostility that relates to two things in America. One, urban American Democratic Party politics, those competing for power disproportionately since 1955, 1960, is Black and Jewish political groups, right? So in Atlanta, New York, Chicago, other places, that's where a lot of it is. It's like the Italians and the Irish, or the Irish and the natives. And, that's an old contest, if you will. There's a bit of that. There's also hostility within the music industry in the film industry, because as Dave Chappelle puts it, there's a good number of Jewish people out there. Just say it, as he puts it. He's like, Black people get together, definitely a gang. Italians get together, definitely the mob. Bunch of Jewish people get together. We're not supposed to talk about that.
It's a coincidence, and you can never.
Where that joke comes from, but that's more sincere. That's not the I like Hitler nonsense and gibberish Kanye's been spewing, and he knows that. And so it's either he's lost his mind and he got associated with an idiot like Fuentes, and Fuentes is feeding him all this race grift nonsense, and he's just running with it. Because Fuentes is a smart kid. He's just a race grifter. Or it's what he said at the beginning of Tim Pool. Because when he sets down, something has been on Kanye's mind. And it's what Kanye explained is that he, as accountants had explained to him, he didn't give the exact time frame, that he owes at least $50 million in taxes. And he explained how they're coming after him potentially to put him in jail. And he even grabbed his arm about how that made him nervous. And then he bridged off to everything else. And I was like, well, if I was Kanye, and it turns out I got a big tax problem, criminal tax problem, what case would I look up, right? Is there a case out there, somebody famous, maybe even a Black male celebrity famous, who was also accused of tax crimes, who mostly walked, didn't serve any real time? And like people out there say, Kanye would never do this because, he's losing $250 million business potentially. If he's, to give people an idea, at $50 million, he's looking at 20 to 25 years in federal prison. He's looking at the end of his practical.
And if I can stop you there, first of all, is the person you're thinking about? It's not Wesley Snipes. Okay. Now,
that's
second,
exactly who it is.
Because I didn't know.
If you were to research, here you have a Black male celebrity accused of tax evasion who mostly walked, who did 2 years at a minimum security work camp where he taught yoga and created a video game. That's Kanye's exit strategy if he is facing 25 years in federal prison. If he looked that up and only looked it up lightly, looked at the headlines, stuff like that, he would see a common quote. And the quote was from our opening statement, which was, if crazy was criminal, half of Hollywood would be in prison. Now, that wasn't really the core of Wes's defense. It was that a lot of people were going to see crazy stuff, so we had to get ahead of the curve on that. But the core of the defense was a good faith reliance defense, which is unique to tax cases, which is I sincerely believed what I was doing was legal. My guess is Kanye didn't indeed do a deep dive. If he did do a brief dive, he'd be like, man. And then he may have heard of the famous New York mobster who dodged trouble for a good number of years by pretending to be crazy. He went out in his thing and he did it. It was a famous case of him pretending to be crazy. And it working for a substantial time period. So Kanye might be like, hey, what if I convince everybody I'm totally nuts? Then they'll probably just drop me as a criminal tax case. Probably just move on. It appears to work for Snipes. It appeared to work for that mobster guy. So the best alternative explanation I can give for Kanye's behavior being in his own self-interest and rational is that it's a massive guise of faking being crazy so he doesn't go to jail.
As we say in Quebecois, Robert, tabarnak, is that a damn good idea? If that's going to be a novel above and beyond the simple, my explanation, people in the chat on Rumble are saying he's playing 4D chess or played 4D chess and failed. He was just trolling, yada. Mine is like grade 3 level hypothesizing. This is a 4D level chess hypothesizing. And there's that to say, like, if you're accused of or found guilty to owe like 50 million, it's not just a question of repaying the 50 million plus back taxes and interest and whatever.
You would have bet that they would have told him that right away. In the federal system, that doesn't get you out at all.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's kind of fascinating.
And it's just, why bring it up on Tim Pool? Why bring it up at all? Like, clearly it's on the front of his mind. And Tim didn't know to pursue that. If I'd been right there, I'd have been like, let's talk about that.
Well, it's true, because if even from my perspective, I heard it and I was like, oh, okay, he owes 50 million. Well, that's a drop in the bucket compared to the whatever $500 million that he just lost. So maybe that's frustrating, but the idea is it would be criminal, and therefore repayment is not an option, as per his own admissions or fantasies, depending on which way you see it.
And guys like Kanye, because Wes was this way, think prison is like the movie Undisputed that he was in, Wes was in, but they think of it as hardcore because the people they know that are in prison are usually in state prison. Now, at that level, Kanye would be in a serious place, but not a too violent a place. That's all more of a state. But for someone like them, it terrifies him. And what was interesting is he said later that it, really scared him for a bit. The way he gripped his arm showed that it was really ripping at him. And I was like, and nobody picked up on it. Like afterwards, like everybody was looking at, he walked off the set, all the rest. Nobody picked up on that part of his conversation. And I think, now let's say that's your script. You're like, I got to come across as crazy. I got to convince people I'm crazy. The reason I didn't pay taxes is because I thought the Jews were going to steal it all to kill all the black people. That's why. Honest to God, I swear. Something like that, whatever it is, some crazy script. And he's not getting the response he gets. People are taking him seriously at each place. They're like, this isn't working. Okay, I'll go on Alex Jones and get Alex to say, you're crazy. Then the world will understand, yes, I'm nuts. So if there's a sophisticated play, that's it. Sadly, the reality may be he has just lost it.
Well, that's yeah.
I don't believe he's a mean. No, Fuentes is a grifter. I get where he's doing. And for people that keep on yipping for Fuentes, watch him when Kanye starts praising Hitler. Watch Fuentes' head go up and down.
So
the guy's a pure race grift, bottom of the barrel, David Duke wannabe. He should waste his time chasing little boys in furry outfits that he likes to do. That kind of behavior. But Kanye has never given off, at least as I could tell, malevolent, malicious vibes. Well, he knew what he was doing when he was saying this ridiculousness about Hitler. So I hope there's a wisdom behind all this.
And that's my thing. Like, it's like even bona fide bona fide, sincere, genuine anti-Semites don't act like that. Like it's not for lack of having run into people who genuinely harbor anti-Semitic beliefs. They don't run around saying, "I love Nazis, I love Hitler." They don't do that. But now that you say this, Robert, and you put that in conjunction with his latest Instagram post of accusing Elon Musk of being a half Chinese, what's the word?
Hybrid.
Hybrid is the word. I mean, I still go with my 2D level interpretation, but my goodness, did you just open my perspective as to what could be the case here? Nick and people in the chat, I've heard enough of Nick Fuentes. I don't. People can believe what they want. Yeah. The question really is: does the speech of Nick Fuentes create risks for real life violence, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, that's a good transition into, was Elon Musk's? There's two different analysis for Elon Musk. Did he make the right decision for Twitter versus was his decision First Amendment consistent?